Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we're continuing our coverage of the ongoing civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia, and we have intel and news on two frontal areas of operations right now. So first and foremost, we're continuing to watch what is happening in the Afar region. Again, as we know, Afar regional militias that were supported by the Eritrean military. There was some train and assist missions by the Eritrean military in the form of both company-sized and even battalion-sized elements that had crossed into the Afar region and were both training and assisting Afar regional militias in cross-border raids into the Tigray region. Probably well over a week ago, 2 weeks ago, the Tigray Defense Forces marshaled up approximately, we believe, an estimate of around 5 regiments, 5 operational regiments of personnel, not to exceed about 5,000 personnel, and launched an operation into the Afar region to identify and destroy some of these Afar regional militias, and we understand actually engaged and destroyed elements of the Eritrean army inside of the Afar region. So that fighting continues as we speak. We continue to see the TDF and those operational regiments inside of the Afar region engaging forces of both the Afar regional militias and the Eritrean military as well. Again, there's probably not divisional sized elements of the Eritrean military in the Afar region, but again, right now these are more train and assist types of operations that are ongoing. And one of the reasons for this is the ENDF, or the excuse me, the B loyalist forces have really taken heavy casualties in the course of this conflict, especially over the last 6 months when the TDF launched that massive operation into the Amhara region, and that was a debilitating factor for the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, the B loyalist forces. But right now, we're continuing to see the TDF operate in the Afar region, pressing operations near Bahale and such areas as Asat, and then obviously more down towards the south near Abala as well. So Abala continues to be under the control of the Tigrayan Defense Forces. Those Afar regional militias and Eritrean army elements were evicted from Abala, and quite a few units that were based in and around Abala of both the Afar regional forces and the Eritrean army were in fact destroyed in zone. And that's why we're kind of hearing this shrill response from Afar regional leadership in pleading for additional B loyalist forces to be reintroduced into the Afar region. Now, with that being said, a lot of those forces, those B loyalist forces, are currently refitting in and around Addis Ababa and other places in the northern and central Amhara regions. And some of those forces have in fact also been deployed because of the success that we've seen from the Oromo Liberation Army, especially in Western Oromia. So the capability and capacity for the B loyalist formations to reintroduce itself en masse in the Afar region, or open up another front along the southern Tigray region is fairly minuscule at the moment, and the threat of that said operation by any ENDF forces is probably fairly remote as they continue to refit and patch up their wounds from that massive invasion by the TDF that occurs. And as we know, the TDF withdrew from the Afar region. Now, there's additional intelligence coming in from that operation as well, in which we saw the TDF fairly rapidly advance, seizing control of Kobo, Weldia, Dese, Kombolcha, meeting up with OLA fighters in Kamise, and then pressing further south within the vicinity of Debre Burhan. Now, we are under the initial impression that the TDF advance was halted because of massive drone activity and the deployment of additional Turkish military assets, United Arab Emirates assets, and even People's Republic of China, obviously giving the Abiy loyalist formations and the intelligence services wing-loon drones and precision-guided weapons to arm those said drones. And really, the Turkish assets were a big concern with actual both Turkish intelligence units on the ground, contractors, and quite possibly active duty special forces acting as forward ground controllers for some of these drone strikes. And again, initially, there were obviously reports that the TDF withdrew under withering attack from these drone assets. But now we're starting to hear that, in fact, there was a lot of political pressure being placed on the Tigray Defense Forces not to make that final push towards Addis Ababa, as it quite possibly would have caused a great media spectacle, and obviously it would have caused a tremendous amount of bloodshed as the TDF encircled and then forced its way into Addis Ababa to remove Abiy Ahmed from power. And again, it sounds now as if the reason the TDF halted may not have been entirely because of the drone threat that was occurring, but quite possibly external Western political pressure on the Tigray Defense Forces to halt its operation towards Addis Ababa. And now we're not saying that is of 100% certainty, but it's quite possibly, again, the TDF could have made a final push towards Addis Ababa and gained quite a bit more of territory. As we know, again, the Abiy loyalist forces, after being defeated near Dessie and Kombolcha, and the casualties that it sustained as the TDF drove from Weldia through Mercer, Wachale, down through Haik, were immense. And the offensive operation that the Ethiopian National Defense Forces were originally going to launch just north of Dessie and Kombolcha. Well, it wasn't that they did not launch it. They actually did launch a fairly sizable offensive operation looking to regain control of Haik and Wachale. And that operation was a utter disaster, with many units of the ENDF completely annihilated or destroyed as it tried to press out of Dessie north. And that is what led to the counteroffensive by the Tigray Defense Forces, which we've seen them rapidly start to encircle Dessie, Kombolcha, eventually seizing control of Dessie and Kombolcha, and then moving further south and then linking up with those OLA fighters in Kamise and then other areas as well. So again, the information at MFAN that we are getting is that the ENDF had been effectively defeated after that just completely horrid operation that it tried to conduct, that massive offensive operation that the ENDF tried to conduct towards the north, and its eventual goal was to try and seize Weldia. But again, the casualties sustained by that offensive, which really got off to a really bad start, and we were seeing both, for the most part, very large formations of semi-conscripted troops that had not been trained very well, just taking massive casualties. And some of the better units that were brought in to reinforce those units, those poorly trained units, such as elements of even the Abiy regime Republican Guard forces, were also soundly defeated just north of Dessie. And again, we saw that counteroffensive, which ended with the TDF very close to Debre Berhan and other areas, and specifically, we saw the TDF take control of the terrain features just to the west of Debre Sena. So after that occurred, and the ENDF was really in a bad situation. The Abiy loyalist forces were facing utter defeat, and that's when we saw those drone assets and other Turkish assets be deployed to Addis Ababa and the main air base just southeast of Addis Ababa. But initially, we thought that that is what stifled the TDF offensive south towards Addis, also known as Finfinne, and by the OLA and the Oromo people. But again, quite possibly, it was a political decision. Again, the world opinion, and especially the U.S. State Department and some other Western nations, were very, very concerned about a TDF move on Addis Ababa, and it was very, very close to occurring, but not for that political pressure. That is why the TDF quite possibly decided to withdraw. They could not stay stagnant, obviously, in the Amhara region under occupying these large areas of land with no further goal, as they were being held back from launching an operation against Addis Ababa. So they decided to withdraw back into the Tigray region. And if that had been a defeated force, most likely, given the tenacity of fighting and the ill will between the two sides, the logical next step for the ENDF, if it truly had that capability, would be to reinvade the Tigray region if it had actually defeated the Tigray Defense forces in and around the Amhara region. But it looks like that actually did not occur, and now we're seeing the ENDF just trying to repair itself at the same time while it's trying to fight the Oromo Liberation Army, especially west and north currently of Addis Ababa. We just wanted to talk about that and give you the viewer, further information on what we're receiving and kind of the why behind the TDF withdrawal back into the Tigray region and the further operations that are taking place, these envelop and destroy missions. Again, these are not territorial acquisition missions. These are missions designed to eliminate both Eritrean army threats and Afar regional militia threats along the Afar region, along the Afar border as well. That's the news for today. We'll have more very, very soon. Have a good day, everybody.